All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the MCAG Governing Board to order. The time right now is 3:03. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Nelson. Director Hogue.
Here.
Director Nagy.
Here.
Director Samra.
Here.
Director Yanis.
Here.
Director Serratto.
Here.
Director Espinosa. Chair Pedroso. Director McDaniel. Director Pereira. Director Silvera.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. Next, can we have the invocation? Do we have a volunteer on the dais or in the audience who would like to lead the invocation? All right, I guess we will skip that. And then, do I have a volunteer to lead us in the pledge? Oh, okay.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. As we move into item 2 of the approval of the agenda, I understand, Stacy, you have something?
I do, Mr. Chair. Item 8A2, which is the governing board roster, the attachment there, it has a correction that we will make and add as an updated document for August, but it indicates in the month of April that Director Moran was absent when in fact he was in attendance, and it incorrectly has Director Espinosa as in attendance when he was absent. So I wanted to make note of that, and we will update the roster and have it corrected for August. And then also, at the request of Chair Pedroso, if we could move item 3, recognition of service for the outgoing chair, to the end of agenda, and I would recommend that be
15?
Yep, the new between 15 and a half, between 15 and 16. 15B, yeah, or A or something. Yes. And those are the summary of my requests.
All right. Do we have a
Chair
motion?
Silvera, motion to approve the agenda with the previously stated changes.
Thank you. All right. We have motion second. Any opposition to that? All right. Motion passes. Or do we need a roll call vote for that? No. Okay.
We don't have anyone attending virtually.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's move on now to item 4, which is public comment. Public comment is now open for anyone to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have anyone in the room today with public comment? I'll take that as a no. Do we have anyone by phone or email? No. And anyone virtually? No. Okay. All right. And anyone who provide, anybody on the board want to make comment? No. All right. Quiet bunch. All right. Let's move on to item 5, Citizen Advisory Committee report. Jose.
You're going to end the quietness right here.
Yeah, right.
I remember you. Well, good afternoon to all of you. All of you. There. Okay. I'm here to present to you a brief report from our MCAG CAC meeting for July 7, 2023. Items that generated the discussion include the following. Actually, all were just discussions because we could not vote on the action items. We did not have enough CAC members present to complete a quorum. Recommend the governing board authorize an increase to the executive director's budget authority to $12,000 for the purchase of 2 new alternative vehicles. amend the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget to increase the fixed asset line item to $50,000 for the purchase of 2 new alternative fuel vehicles. And under the Merced County Association of Governments, Blake Danford requested a recommendation for the governing board adopt policy update and release call for projects for the congestion mitigation and air quality and carbon reduction programs. There is currently about $4.75 million of congestion mitigation funds for eligible projects with some eligibility requirements such as must be transportation related, must generate an emissions reduction, and it must be in a non-attainment or maintenance area. The carbon reduction program currently has about $900,000 in funds available for eligible projects that include rail and transit, bike and pedestrian, and electric vehicle, EV charging facilities. Rene Gutierrez and Ursula Stock will remain their MCAG CAC elected positions until we have a quorum to elect new replacements. Mauricio Torres gave an update on the transportation planning and V-Measure monthly update. Progress continued the Finish the 99 initiative. Federal Transportation Improvement Program Formal Amendment 11 is set to be released for public comment in July. And EV Readiness Plan Survey will close by the end of July 7, 2023. Going on, you will hear a few minutes from Meg Prince, Neb Gabri, and Jose Perez. I think it's only Jose, the one who's here. Okay. As for myself, I have nothing to report from the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. The July meeting, it fell on July 4th. However, the staff does keep us informed on what is going on with their news release. When I receive the news, I have been forwarding them to you. You have a better way to forward beneficial news to your constituents. The latest I received was district urges Valley residents to protect their health, stay cool, and check air quality. The other was drivers can receive up to $850 for smoke-related vehicle repairs. Mary Michael introduced to us Maria Ceja as the new MCAG Administrative Assistant, and is also the clerk for the CAC and MCAG Governing Board. Welcome, Maria. I believe we need help from the Board of Supervisors and City Council members. The MCAG CAC is supposed to have 18 members, 8 of which are vacant. But from the current 10 members, 5 attended the last meeting. We were 1 short for a quorum. Look at your districts and submit your recommendations or prospective candidates to Stacy Guzman. Gladly, she will take action. I think that's enough for today. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Delgadillo. All right, let's move on to item 6, presentation of sales tax update from David McPherson with HDL Companies. And is he on via Zoom?
Never mind, he joined this panelist.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, sure can. Hi, David. How are you?
Okay. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Would you like me to begin, Elizabeth, or do you have any?
Yes, please do, and thank you for joining us, David.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, share some of the information staff has asked me to share with you what we do with them on a quarterly basis. The information I'm going to provide to you is in a non-confidential format. I believe you have a copy of the information in front of you. We share it to staff a little different and more details with a variety of things. As you know, Measure V is a 0.5% tax that is county-wide as far as for the tax. It is a destination tax, not a origination tax, but could be one and the same. Basically, as long as it's in the county, it is being subject to the Measure V transaction tax with that. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Hopefully you can see that now.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, wonderful. So what you see in front of you or have as well is our newsletter where we get the information. We are talking about the first quarter of 23 sales tax from the state comes in the rear to us from when it's collected and submitted to the agencies. In this case, it's January through March is what we're talking about. This is a unique quarter in a couple of areas and dynamics. First of all, on a little bit broader picture, you are part of the Silicon Valley, assuming the San Joaquin Valley, that makes up 8 counties, the kind of the data that we look at, and then we narrowed it specifically to Merced County for the measure itself. That region for the 8 counties has roughly been about 3%, a negative 3% this quarter. Compared to a year ago, we were in the 3 and 4% on the plus side. And then on the statewide, it's dropped a little bit here. But this newsletter up here on top where we show the measure, you can see a negative 4% for the first quarter. That's for the agency itself figure. And what you see on the right there is the state of what's happening in the state as a whole.
Hey, David, I just want to clarify. You said 4%, but your screen says 0.4.
I'm sorry, 0.4%.
Thank you.
So you can see where they're both down. Again, we've seen that transition come back to no norms, coming out of a COVID transition of a closure. And as we continue moving, evolve, there's a few other things in there, a shifting occur. But what we noticed across the state, and more to you as well, I mean, this is for the state, but anomaly of this quarter, is we had some heavy rains. Of course, we've been in drought for a long time, and we've been hoping for this, but some agencies, regions of the state have been hit a little harder than others, which is no surprise to you folks. As a result of that, you see some adjustments in some of the categories which are occurring here in our close of why we see a little of that flattening in here. General consumers, as you see on the bar chart here, is reflective more of just people having a lot of savings or not going out and spending money in the big picture earlier during COVID. And so they went out and started spending a lot of money back in 21 into going into 22 on the front side. But then kind of as their savings kind of thinned out, they kind of slowly, as they anticipate, possibly softening of the economy, slowing down and spending on the general consumer goods. And therefore you see we're a little flat there. The business and industry category pulled out a little stronger for the measure. Of course, because B&I in the business industry categories, you have agriculture, warehousing and farming equipment, garden equipment. Because of the rains and the ag community having to take care, especially the chemical side with a lot of rains. I'm no surprise that you have a lot of mildew and fungus concerns regarding just the ground and trying to mitigate some of the challenges. They do a little more than probably they normally do associated that. So there was a little more activity associated with that. As we look in the autos and the transportation category, just a little bit of softening beginning. People had cars kind of where they're at of low inventory during the closures. Buying a lot, so just kind of slowing down in there. But more importantly, in that category, we find that the Fed rates are actually affecting this because the interest rates for financing or leasing a vehicle is where they were 0%, 1%. We're seeing the average consumer having to pay 7 to 8% in interest rates for either financing or leasing a vehicle. So a little gun shy on some of what people can afford, and seeing those monthly rates where we saw, in the $300 or $400 jumping up to $700 to $800, the type of vehicles that are bought in your region, for the most part. Same with the fuel. Second quarter of 22, fuel across the state was $6.15 a gallon. Today's market, we're seeing at about $4.50 a gallon. So good for the consumer, kind of a little more money in their pocket, but from the revenue side, a little more impact for the agency related to that. So you can see where it's kind of softened there. But the good part of that is, as you see in the restaurant bar chart here, is that you are seeing a bump up there where people are saying, okay, I got a little more money in my pocket, price of groceries are coming down a little bit. We can afford to go out and go to more of the casual dining, fast casual dining, and more of the quick service dining that's kind of more prevalent in your area. So a little bump up in there. But with that said, because of the construction, the warehouse construction equipment being in the business industry category and the heavy rain, you see construction kind of coming to a little slowdown there. Of course, can't put concrete down with that, can't frame things, delays in construction projects, kind of waiting for the ground to kind of get back to normal, and contractors and builders can get out and actually do something. The other thing that's affecting this category is the price of lumber. Price of lumber was off the charts a year to a year and a half ago. I'm using an analogy, it's on the stock market right now in the commodity section, where it's dropped 65 to 70% for lumber cost. So that's a good thing for builders and for consumers, but from a revenue side, again, just like the fuel coming down to that normal trend that we had 2-3 years ago, that we're starting to soften up everything there. Food and drugs, groceries still being a little more expensive than eating out. Maybe that's part of where we're seeing people saying, in some areas, not so much in your region, but parts of the region of the state, a dozen eggs was getting up to $7 a dozen in some cases when we had the virus impacting the chickens, and we're coming back to that $2.50 to $3-4 egg, and as food as well is getting there. So you see that little dip in there. What we try to do here on the summary too, we try to, in a non-confidential format, provide you a summary of just kind of what I just mentioned here, kind of gauging some of the things. But here's a visual of the different categories. You can see it where things are down across the county. And you can see where it's down across the state as well, with the arrows going up or down in some of the categories that we just discussed here. So important note to look at and kind of reflect there. And then when you look at the statewide level, we try to give you a little summary here where you can see just kind of looking at, again, those counties that make up the San Joaquin Valley, the various ones that reflect just how performing across the board on the various categories associated with this. So I'm going to now share with you kind of a higher level look at this. This is called our consensus forecast. We use this to kind of gauge staff, and when they're doing the budget, as it presents stuff to you, it is kind of where the economy is going, and looking at it from a budget perspective of how things are trending in there. You can see up here, again, this is statewide, so some areas going to be regional, going to be a little higher and a little lower based on specific categories. If you're too heavy in one, they're talking to a client that, they're 18 of their top 20 business producers are car dealerships. That was a category down, they were impacted. If you're in a category that, you have a different feel. The beauty of a measure, though, is you get a blend of everything, because whatever local agency that you all make up as a board from your constituent areas, you're going to feel those little pain points differently than the measure is going to be across the board on there. Looking at the categories, got a high level visual of where we're closing out This is at a state level again, where we're closing out the positive, the cars, again, some of the things that we're seeing is softening statewide. We're still okay. This quarter just kind of affected you a little more, but you can see where it's going to there and then a little more softening. So as we adjust budgets, we do those economic factors and provide staff some guidance on how that is going. Food and drug, again, this covers the drugstores, convenience stores, and the grocery stores. Still a little positive due to the little inflation that's still affecting that's driving that growth related to that. And then some of the areas that are a little more impacting to you, as we mentioned, the fuel prices coming down significantly, continue that slowly march to it. And the fuel also includes petroleum. So, a lot of the ag communities use a lot of petroleum, and so that's a factor in there too. It's just not on the consumer side, putting in their transportation vehicles as well. I mentioned the construction, little more hit. This is where that little more hit to you because of the heavier rains that you've encountered during this period. And it might move a little more into the second quarter as well because we had some late rains going into that February, March, April timeframe as well. So a little bit of softening in there. As I mentioned, consumer just more going flat. There's a little buying, but overall we're seeing a little flat. So we look at fulfillment centers like the Amazons of the world and the third-party buyers. We're seeing them slowing down even their build-out of some of their facilities that they were trying to expand during the closure. This is an important area for you in your agency. As we mentioned, this is a lot where the ag community is very active. We'll still grow. We see a little growth here still. You guys are providing and getting some of that growth associated with that. And hopefully where there was a drought, you're gonna see more of the farmers and the ag communities maximizing some of their land use and affecting some, getting back and purchasing some equipment as financing gets back in order for them. And that's the other thing, the financing is only affecting cars, it's affecting businesses that typically don't pay cash for machines, equipment, infrastructure stuff associated with their business models. And then the other thing we always try to share with them, like I mentioned to you, we have the restaurants going positive still, again, people confident in having a little more money in their pocket as the economy feels a little more better for them, that they are eating out, and that's a good thing. A little softening, but not as much as to go more just because we've had some rainy quarters that people want to get out. And then the other thing, just briefly want to touch upon that's the most critical, I think, at the higher level, which is why all the economists, and we've been sharing with our clients, is why we're not saying we're going into a recession, that we're just going to a soft economy. It has to do with the unemployment rate. So unemployment is the best it's been in 17 years. It's been very positive, with a few exceptions that some of you, as your local agencies that you're part of, know there's been a few businesses that have been shut down due to the rain issue that occurred that have impacted some manufacturers at the local level, but they've kind of got back on their feet. So no one's really been laid off regarding the ag community or some of those factories for a long period of time. They've been very fortunate there. But very positive here on that. It's the drive even in the ag communities that I think are going to see some upside of that because of the fact that we're kind of coming out of a drought. Have a little more for them to maximize things as there's definitely need for that. The other stuff is just some more high-level stuff that we provide that's in the package that are just some positive notes of still holding on. Are the only one key that's out there still is just monitoring the Fed rates and how that affects businesses in the long run. So with that said, I'm more than happy to take any questions or turn this back over to staff for the further discussion.
All right, thank you for that. Questions from the board?
Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, hey. Welcome, Chairman Pedroza. Very mystical. You feel
Make
like
sure is Pat there? No?
Yeah, Pat's there.
Oh, Pat, my bed is made because I just got into the hotel. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. McPherson?
I only have one clarifying question, and that's on page 11 of the packet. I see the front cover of the document has a bunch of boats and says Tuolumne County. I just want to confirm we're looking at our correct information.
That's just overall that we take from the state. It's just a view of a summertime view that gives the credit where the lake is at. So
Okay, thank you.
apologize, it's not a lake in your backyard. It's a generic document we use for the state.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you for the presentation. I got to see the end of it. I read the report, and it's sales tax is always something really important to look at, and the taxes in general. So thank you very much, sir.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too. All right, next we will go on to Caltrans. Marlon, I see Marlon's on. How you doing? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Director, board members, just want to give a brief update from the Caltrans District 10 side. Apologies, Dennis is not able to make it today. However, he gives his regards. But yes, let me just give some brief updates. And these are, for the most part, funding updates. We are tracking some of the latest state and federal funding opportunities that are out there for our partner organizations. And so the first one that we would like to highlight today is our Reconnecting Communities Highways to Boulevards program. This is the state program. There is two components, the federal Reconnecting Communities and the state Reconnecting Communities. So this is the state program, and it's called Reconnecting Communities Highways to Boulevards, which is to provide support for underutilized highways all around the state, converting them into multimodal corridors, reconnecting communities divided by transportation infrastructure. There's a lot of information on this program on our website, and I'm happy to share information with the board as well. But just want to quickly note that there's $149 million available for this program. And the deadline to apply is September 20th of this year. So regional organizations, local organizations, joint powers authorities, federal recognized tribes and transit agencies are eligible to apply for that. So again, happy to provide any additional information on the Reconnecting Communities program. We are also highlighting the federal highway administration, which is called the PROTECT program that FHWA is putting out, a call for applications. Actually, this only has a couple more weeks. The deadline is August 18th, but really this PROTECT program is to address the climate crisis by improving resiliency of our transportation system, including highways, public transportation, ports, and intercity passenger rail. So just want to share that opportunity as well. There's $858 million available for this federal program. So again, I can provide additional information on this PROTECT program if you'd like. So that's it for funding, but we also have a release of our Caltrans draft carbon reduction strategy. So we're putting this carbon reduction strategy out for public comment. This is also on our headquarters website, our Caltrans website. And so this is based on the requirement from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IJA Act. It requires each state, including California, to develop a carbon reduction strategies outlining how we would reduce transportation carbon emissions. So this is what this strategy is all about. If you'd like to take a look at it, we are accepting comments until August 18th of this year. And if you'd like to send an email request with any comments, questions, the email address is carbon.reduction@dot.ca.gov. And then just want to also share, Caltrans is celebrating our 50th anniversary. We were actually noted as created as a state transportation agency about 50 years ago. So it's very exciting for us. We're engaging on a new path. Right now, our work is now guided by our core 4 foundational principles. I'm sure you've heard Dennis mention these. It's safety, equity, climate action, and economic prosperity. And this includes, of course, our partner agencies as well. And so we are trying to rebuild our transportation system across the state and reimagine it in order to provide multimodal transportation options for everyone, to connect rather than divide our neighborhoods and neighbors, and to ensure that no one is ever left behind. So we're happy to celebrate, and we're thankful for our partners as well. That really concludes the major updates I wanted to share, but just briefly, I wanted to say congratulations to Merced County, because we did recently hear that as part of the Port and Freight Infrastructure Program, Merced County was allocated pretty much $50 million, $49.6 million of funds for the Merced County Inland Port. And that's a huge deal. And we are very happy that Merced County is able to receive those funds. We look forward to working with the county and MCAG on delivering that project as quickly and efficiently as possible. So with that, that concludes the Caltrans update. I'm happy to take any questions or concerns, and thanks again for the time, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you as always. Does anybody have any questions?
I do, Mr. Chair, Silvera.
Okay, no, Scott or Mr. Silvera.
Marlon, I'm not going to waste the opportunity to remind you that we have a Clean California Parks grant in, so when you talk to your friends in Caltrans, make sure you remind them that we got ours submitted before they extended the deadline, and I think that should be worth something. The other thing I want to just thank you guys and thank Caltrans, the intersection on Highway 152 and Volta Road. I read the email where I believe the planning process is, I'm going to call it underway, and eventually that intersection, I think the fixes that Caltrans came up with is putting a roundabout in there. And I think if I remember correctly, it's 2028 when that project should be completed. So I think that's a much needed project. That intersection, is the main artery into the single largest concentration of tomato processing plants in the world. And that's the major artery into there. And so I know that every year that there's multiple accidents there, some fatal accidents. And so I'm glad to see that you guys are working on that. And I think that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Chair, this is Lloyd.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Hi, Marlon. Let me ask you a question. So on the reconnecting grants, so are you familiar with J59? So where North Highway 59 ends in the town of Snelling, and then it goes up to Highway 108 near Jamestown?
Absolutely.
So would that road, is that a road that could qualify for some funds under that program? Is that the type of road you're looking for?
We can look into that. I believe that's Director Pereira. Yeah, we can look into that, absolutely. One thing to note, and I did discuss this with Madam Director, we are going to be initiating a corridor plan on State Route 59. So that's something that we would also be evaluating as part of that plan. But we can definitely get a heads up on whether that would be eligible for that funding opportunity. So let's follow up. I'll go ahead and do that.
So on this, the committee that you've put together to look at 59, does that include the possibility of making J59 part of Highway 59?
That's something that we're going to need to evaluate, absolutely. I know that's something that has been brought up previously, and I expect that to be part of the planning discussion, yes.
Okay. And then if you wouldn't mind getting me an update on where we are with the Hawk system at Campbell and 165 in Hillmar, and then also on the stoplight. So I know the last update, I thought the Hawk system was going to be going in here before school starts. So just wondering, I think waiting for the poles was probably the holdup the last time I heard. Waiting for the poles, the metal poles. Okay. I know we're having trouble locating those or, acquiring them. So
Anyways, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate your work.
No problem. We'll get you an update very quickly for Hillmar.
Mr. Chair, this is Silver. I have another question that I forgot to ask.
Go ahead.
Marlon, on Highway 152 between Los Banos and Dos Palos, when they made that highway into a 4-lane, a divided highway, Caltrans I think they had pretty grand plans that it's a lot of those intersections, they bought up ground, basically to come off of the highway. It was enough ground that they could put put like off ramps on either side. And I know that I just don't see any kind of growth, at least in my lifetime, that Caltrans is going to need that. And so I have a couple businesses that are in that area. There's lease situations going on where they lease this little like wonky 4-acre piece that used to be connected to their piece at one point, but then when Caltrans, put the highway through there. And so just, I guess, want you to look into what is the state's process for those folks to be able to purchase that back? I'm guessing I would call it like surplus lands. So just kind of want to put that on your radar. I know that one specific business, their main entrance now is off of 152, and as they expand their business, they want to put in, it's the Orchid Barn there on 152, and as they want to expand their business and put in more of a visitor center, I'm going to call it for lack of better words, but like a retail spot. I mean, they mostly supply commercial orchids to retail stores, but they want to have a better presence, and it makes sense if they're going to bring in that kind of traffic, for that traffic to enter off of Turner Island versus entering off of 152, because you have cars going at highway speed and whatnot. And so they're definitely interested in it. And so just kind of maybe if you can look into that and follow back up with me on what the process would be for them to try to acquire that land.
Yeah, thank you, Director, for making me aware of that. And I did hear from our environmental and right-of-way deputy that there has been a request from either property owner, prospective property owner, and I think to your question, there is a process that we have to go through to allow further access, because right now I believe the roadway classification, the functional classification, not to get too technical, but 152 right now is classified as an expressway, which has limited access. In order to provide additional access, we'd have to reclassify that roadway. And that does require California Transportation Commission action, CTC. So we'll have to go through that. And that may also require MCAG board action as well to support that change in classification. So what we'll probably end up doing is briefing our MCAG team, and we may prepare an item for the board to discuss this item, as well as bring it to CTC. But that also, there's another part to that, and that is we have to develop a report to determine what the impacts will be and everything that entails the change in classification. So once we prepare that report, we'll bring that to the board's attention and review, and we'll get that going. But I will also give our environmental team a heads up that you yourself and the MCAG board is looking for support for this, I guess, local business.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll discuss a little bit more offline. I just want to make sure you're understanding the parameters. I don't think that they're looking for more access off of 152. They're trying to get rid of where they're entering and exiting onto 152. They're wanting to push to a county road, Turner Island Road, but because of that little 4-acre wonky kind of piece that Caltrans owns, it precludes them, because like their piece of property that it used to be a part of, like, kind of pinches down to a little spot, and then there's a canal there. It doesn't give them the access they need off of Turner Island without having a part or that 4 acres that sits to I'm gonna call it the south of it. But I'll follow up with you offline, and we can look at it on a map so you know specifically what I'm talking about. But just again, wanted to bring it to your attention as their business is looking to expand and want to try to get something done there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Director. Let's talk offline. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, real quick, Marlon, Matt Serratto, I just wanted to thank you for the Clean California grants that we're already seeing the progress in the city of Merced at the highway underpasses, 8 murals throughout the city, and we're receiving very, very positive feedback about them. So I wanted to thank you for your partnership on that. We're pretty excited to showcase a lot of our local artists and people. They've been extremely well received. And then I'll follow up offline, just a couple update on 99, the widening project on the north end of 99, north end of the county. Seems like there's been some really good progress made recently on that. In addition to that, obviously the issues going through the city of Merced, and then potentially the V and 13th area, which I've had discussions. I toured it with Director Agar not long ago, but potentially that could be an intersection for reconnecting communities, given its proximity between North and South Merced and the way that jams up a lot. So just a thought on that as well. But I can follow whenever you feel free to share briefly here, or else I'm happy to send you an email on all those topics as well. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Director, for the kind words, and we appreciate your team's coordination as well, especially on the Clean California. And I'm very, very interested in hearing your thoughts on a potential reconnecting community. So I'd love to talk to you further about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would also like to piggyback on that in regards to if maybe at the next meeting you can give us the update on 99 that Matt's talking about.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Chair. We're happy to provide an update on the projects. Absolutely, anytime.
Okay. I don't want you guys to be celebrating your centennial and it's still under construction. So. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Marlon.
I'll be back here in 50 years. Josh will still be chairing from some hotel room. Look exactly the same, but with a gray beard. Yeah. Josh will be on his 6th round as board chair.
I accidentally moved him to attendee.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. You just yeah. Yeah. Josh is the.
Here you go, he's coming. Apologies.
He just got. You're the weakest link. Goodbye.
Hey, I jumped off for a minute because I heard Matt say something bad about me. Okay, we're on number 8. Item 8 are the information items. Does anybody have any questions for item 8? Okay, we'll move on to item 9 is the consent calendar, which has 3 items. Do any of the directors have questions for staff, or would anybody like to remove anything for consideration? Okay. Any of the directors have questions for staff? Are there any comments from the public? And is there a motion to take action on these items?
Make the motion to approve. Director Samra.
Serratto, second.
Motion by Director Samra.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Samra and a second by Mayor Serratto. Can you call for a roll vote, please, or a roll call vote?
Director Nelson? Yes. Director Hogue?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Samra?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Director Serratto?
Aye.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Now we're
Like
on
that.
to. Oh, sorry. Okay, we're on to number 10. Presented one at a time by staff and public comment. So we'll go to 10A. Is a request to adopt the policy update and release a call for projects for the congestion mitigation and air quality and carbon reduction programs. And who's doing this?
This is Blake, and I have to apologize because when the team asked me if there were any other presenters, I said no, and I was wrong. It's Blake Dunford.
Take it away, Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good afternoon, and I hope you're all enjoying this wonderful Central Valley summer weather. I'm very happy to talk to you today about the CMAQ program. We have new funding and new capacity for projects. We also have the new carbon reduction program, or CRT, that I will be talking to you about in a few minutes. And along with this new capacity, we've prepared some updates to the current policies and procedures. So our request to the board today is to adopt the new policies and procedures and to direct staff to delete the call for projects. Just as some background, the CMAQ program, or Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program, is, as the name suggests, a federal program to improve air quality and reduce congestion. There are three main rules with this program. The project must be transportation related, the project must generate an emissions reduction, and it must be located or benefit a non-attainment area or maintenance area per the National Ambient Air Quality Standard, or NAAQS. We're in the San Joaquin Valley Air Basin, which is non-attainment for PM 2.5 and ozone, so we're good to go. Annually, MCAG receives about $3.5 to $3.8 million in CMAQ funding, and that can be used on a wide variety of projects. Some of these eligible projects include transit service, whether that's service expansion or fleet vehicle replacement. It could be a ride-share or carpool project, such as the DIBS program that we work on with San Joaquin COG and StanCOG. Active transportation projects, your bike and pedestrian projects. These can be any new construction, or such as new bike paths or multi-use paths. It cannot be maintenance of an existing path because if the asset is already there, you're not really generating emissions reduction by just fixing it up. Traffic flow improvements. These are probably our most popular projects to fund. These are roundabouts, signal synchronization, turn lanes, panelization. Of course, CMAQ cannot be widen the road because we would be inviting more cars, more congestion, more air pollution. The last project category that we're seeing much more often around the state is publicly accessible EV chargers. This is definitely popping up in some of the larger COGs, and so we would like to propose that also as an option here. For this call, we have $4.75 million available in CMAQ, but, and I don't get to say this very often, we have additional funds. We have the Carbon Reduction Program, CRT, which is a new program under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, BIL, it's the law of a million names. It is very similar to CMAQ overall, but it does have a stronger emphasis on rail and transit, bike, pedestrian, and alternative fuel projects. Otherwise, though, most of the emission counts, the requirements are all the same, with one caveat. The Carbon Reduction Program requires that candidate projects be submitted to Caltrans HQ for review and accreditation before we're allowed to program them into the FTIP. So we will be accounting for that time in the full process. We have approximately 900,000 funding, or the staff report says 900,000. We do have an updated number. It's 948,000 in funding. This is about 2 fiscal years of funding. We did not program in the last call for projects because we were still waiting on Caltrans guidance on how to approach the program. But now that we have that, we're good to go with this funding. Going over some of the policy changes here, we are recommending several changes to the current policies. The first one is fairly straightforward. This is to change the CMAQ policies and procedures to the joint CMAQ-CRT policies and procedures. The programs really dovetail together very nicely, and many MPOs across the state are combining these two into a joint policy, and so we would like to do the same. For item 7, the call for projects. Current language says that we will only have a call for projects about every 2 years along with the development of the FTIP. We are recommending that this line be removed. If we have capacity for funding, we want to make sure that that money is going out to the jurisdictions to deliver those quality projects that we know your communities enjoy. Item 11, project-based programming. Per board recommendation, we are requesting to remove this item entirely. In the past, we only programmed as far as right-of-way, and this was done just in case there were any hang-ups with the environmental or design process so that funding for construction wasn't in danger. However, in doing this, if multiple projects reached right-of-way at the same time, we would run into funding issues because it would be a first-come, first-served to get construction funding depending on the capacity left in the fiscal year. So per recommendation from the committee and from the board, we are recommending to remove this completely. And so moving forward, we would be just programming these projects as they request in their application. Item 19, dirt road and shoulder paving. We adjusted the cap here to the amount of the call, or 20% of the total amount of the call, as per usual. Item 21, programming phase for state highway system and railroad. Much like item 11, we are recommending to remove this entirely. This item, again, we only programmed as far as right-of-way because of environmental or design delays, projects on the state highway system and with the Class 1 railroad. I mean, no offense to Caltrans, but we know that those processes can take a little bit longer just to make sure that all parties involved are happy. So again, removing per the board's recommendation, and we would be programming as requested in each application. Our last item is item 24. This is for EV charging stations. Originally, we had an efficiency requirement of 4 charges per day. However, we decided that there's no feasible way for MCAG staff to track this unless we had access to the cloud network that the chargers use. And that opens a data privacy can of worms that we really do not want to touch. So after internal discussions, we determined that EV chargers by nature are promoting clean transportation, thus are good use of CMAQ funds. We are also adding Buy America requirements. This is technically not quite necessary yet. There is a grace period for these. However, we know that the Biden administration is very pro Buy America, and we know that that grace period is going to end probably by the end of next fiscal year. So we want to make sure that all projects are in line with the requirements before we go forward, just so there aren't any funding hangups or project delays in the future. Now, Buy America, I would like to talk a brief bit about street sweepers. Compressed natural gas street sweepers, or CNG street sweepers, were originally great projects. They were highly cost effective and removed tons of PM 2.5 and PM 10 from the air. We approved these projects for the city of Livingston and the city of Merced several years ago. However, street sweepers are required to be compliant with Buy America. Steel, iron, and manufactured components must be made in the U.S., and final assembly must be done in the U.S. There are no CNG street sweepers on the market right now that meet these requirements. And FHWA has not released any partial labor requests for these types of projects or many other related projects. Since it is impossible for us to move forward with this project as of now, we are proposing to deprogram both of these projects. The city of Livingston has expressed their support as they understand the trends in the market right now, and they also have some concerns about CNG fueling within the city. For now, we are proposing that no street sweepers or non-transit vehicles are funded by CMAQ or CRP until conditions change. Of course, as FHWA begins to issue waivers, they think through the requirements, or if these new vehicles are more readily available on the market, we're happy to revisit this in the future. Now, briefly covering the schedule. If the board chooses to approve today, we will be releasing the call for projects next Monday, July 24th. The deadline for applications will be September 8th. Through the month of September, we will convene the CMAQ committee to review, score, and make a proposed list of projects. We've set aside the month of October to send the CRP candidate projects to Caltrans HQ for their review. And so with that, we would be bringing it back to you sometime mid-November. Given the current speed of state and federal approval of FTIP amendments, we anticipate having the funding ready to go by mid-January of next year. Once again, we are asking that you approve the policies and procedures and to direct staff to release the call for projects. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the board?
I have just one question on the 1 month expectation that staff processes recommendations projects for Caltrans HQ eligibility certification. Is that something that we do in-house, or is that something that we have to send to Caltrans, and are we comfortable that a 1 month turnaround time is realistic?
We would have to send it to Caltrans HQ. We currently have set aside 1 month. That is generally what the MTOs in the Valley are anticipating. We may have to adjust that, but as this is the first year that the program is really going forward, so it's more or less an estimate at this time, but we're hoping 1 month.
I think that would be a good question for Marlon to just kind of get an indication from Caltrans staff and hierarchy to see, you know, are we setting realistic expectations here with just a 1 month turnaround? Because I like Marlon, I like Dennis, but Caltrans doesn't do anything fast at all, period. So like only putting 1 month, I mean, I'd love for them to say that they can do it in a month, but I don't think that's a realistic expectation.
I see. We can make adjustments to the schedule if necessary.
Okay. Anybody else? Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, is there a motion and a second? And can I get a roll call vote?
Chair, this is Silvera. Motion to approve the actions that are stated in the agenda.
Is there a second?
Serratto, second.
Okay, can you call the roll?
Director Nelson? Yes. Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Sambra?
Yes.
Director Yanes?
Yes.
Director Serratto?
Yes.
Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Director Pereira?
Aye.
Director Silvera?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item 10B is a request to authorize an increase to the executive director's budget authority by $12,000 for purchase of the second of 2 new alternative fuel vehicles, and a request to amend the fiscal year 23-24 budget to increase the fixed asset line item to $50,000 for the purchase of said vehicle. And we have, is that Xavier?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. So in October of last year, this board authorized staff to apply for the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District's Public Benefit Grant Program for the purchase of 2 new alternative fuel vehicles for an estimated cost of $70,000. Staff received grant approval from the Air District in January and purchased the first of the 2 vehicles, a fully electric 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EV, in March. And that vehicle was purchased off the Department of General Services state contract for $31,536.36. The second plug-in hybrid vehicle was not available to purchase due to it no longer being on the state contract at the time grant approval was received, as well as low stock. So staff contacted the few remaining plug-in hybrid dealers on the state contract, but none had any vehicles available for the 2023 year. So as a result of that, staff began an invitation for bids process for a 2023 Hyundai Santa Fe plug-in hybrid. After contacting over a dozen potential bidders over the course of several months, none of the dealerships expressed any interest in submitting a bid. So staff proceeded to draft a sole source justification letter explaining that current market conditions make it impractical for dealers to submit a bid. Since vehicles are in short supply, and if they are available, they're sold fairly quickly without a formal bid process. That justification letter was approved by the executive director on June 5th, and staff received a quote for the Hyundai Santa Fe on June 6th in the amount of $48,985.95. So as mentioned, the original board authorized budget authority was $70,000 for both vehicles, of which $38,463.64 remains for the purchase of the second vehicle. So with the new quote being just short of $50,000, an additional $12,000 is needed. Also, the fiscal year 2023-24 budget requires amending to increase the fixed asset line item by $50,000 to reflect the total cost of purchasing the second vehicle. And $40,000 of the estimated $82,000 total cost for both vehicles will be offset by the grant. So the requested action today is to authorize an increase of $12,000 to the executive director's budget authority for the purchase of the second vehicle, and amend the fiscal year 2023-24 budget to increase the fixed asset line item by $50,000 for the purchase of the second vehicle. So with that, I'd be happy to take questions if there are any.
Okay, are there any questions from the board?
Yeah, this is Pereira. The item is asking for an increase to your budget authority, just for this one item, or for all items?
Just the original budget authority was set when, so it's just for this item.
Okay.
Just for the purchase of this car.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who seconded that?
Iggy.
Okay. So, can I get a roll call, please?
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Sambra?
Yes.
Director Yanis?
Yes.
Director Serratto?
Yes.
Director Pereira? Director Silvera? Chair Pedroso?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you. There are no MCAG. We'll move on to number 11. There are no MCAG discussion items, so we'll move on to the Transit Joint Powers Authority. We have one action item. This is a request to adopt the fiscal year 23-24 capital budget. Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This draft 23-24 capital budget was first presented to the board in May at the May Governing Board meeting. It was then revised as in between there and what would have been our adoption in June. So we brought it back as a revised draft and presented that to you in June of this year. And the revision was the inclusion of an additional $1.6 million for the modernization of our fare box collection system. NAV presented that item at the time and shared that the intention was to phase in the replacement of our fare boxes. But when we started to receive our new vehicles that need new fare boxes, and we started to look at the analysis of needing to operate and maintain two different, probing systems, have two different types of approaches to maintain and use those fare boxes, we looked at the budget, and instead of having half the purchase this year and half the purchase next year, the suggestion and recommendation at that time, which is included in this budget, is to purchase all of the new fare boxes this year and just convert from what we have to what the new system will be. The current fare boxes we have are obsolete, and so trying to maintain them or find parts or repair them is very, very difficult. And so we looked at, what we say, whatever it costs today, it'll be more expensive tomorrow. And if our intention was to do them all, we are requesting to do them all this year. So the budget as presented as the revised draft last month has not changed. It just includes that $1.6 million, and I'm happy to answer for the fare boxes. I'm happy to answer any questions about that addition or any other part of the capital budget.
Are there any questions from the board? Are there any comments from the public? Actually, I have a question real quick. So it seems like we're buying, all these buses and stuff, and I'm sorry if this is an ignorant question, but they're $20,000 for each fare box is what it says, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so you, let's say we get a new bus, we can just take them out and put them in a new bus, or do we continue to spend the $20,000?
I'm going to ask Jose to come up. I want to say we can move them from bus to bus because we talk about that with Yards, but Jose is going to know that a lot better than I. I'm pretending to be Nav today, if you haven't noticed. This is Nav's item. Jose.
The question was, if we have a new bus with a new fare box, do we move an old bus with a new fare box? Yes, that would be the plan. If any of these fare boxes get installed onto an old bus that we eventually retire because they're old, that fare box and any other parts that are salvageable will be removed from that bus. That bus then will be sold as salvage. So the fare box, yes, would be removed and used on any new bus that we get.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, any comments from the public? Is there a motion?
Chair Silvera, motion to approve.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second. Sorry. Giannis.
Okay. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Nelson?
Yes.
Director Hoag?
Yes.
Director Nagy?
Aye.
Director Sambra?
Yes.
Director Yanis?
Yes.
Director Serratto?
Yes.
Director Pereira.
Aye.
Director Silvera.
Aye.
Chair Pedroso.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. There are no TJPA discussion items. There are no action items for regional waste management. So we're going to go to Executive Director's Report. Stacy.
Mr. Chair, sorry, when we approved the agenda, I made the request to move the recognition of the outgoing chair to this item. If we can respectfully request to do that now.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So this is when we get to say really bad stuff about Mayor Serratto or Director Serratto and how bad of a leader he is. But in all honesty, Matt, you did a really good job as chair. You do a really good job as mayor for the city of Merced. You really do lead with your passion for the city and the community, and it's very apparent. So with that, we'd like to present to you this token of appreciation.
Taking pictures first, then.
All right, thank you.
No speech? No speech? Where's the 30-minute speech?
I was going to do 45, but I'll limit it to 30. No, I want to thank everybody, honestly, for just a good year. I think this group's continued to work hard, but we all respect each other, and everybody has a good time together. We have a few laughs, and we get through the agenda, and it's a good group. And I think it's been just a solid, really business-like year. We've moved the ball forward on the landfill, on transit, on regional transportation, on the JPA renewal as well, obviously, after all that. So looking forward to another good year. I know we have it's going to be a lot harder with Pedroso in the chair, but no, I think this is a good group, and staff does an amazing job too, putting everything together. So thankful for everybody working together and looking forward to bigger things to come.
All right. Thank you. And so where are we at now, Stacy?
Now you're back to me.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I know I mentioned this last month, but do want to thank Director Serratto for his year as chairman of the board, and we, I think, got a lot accomplished and look forward to what we can do with Chair Pedroso and Vice Chair Yanis. He mentioned the JPA. I'll just say, I don't know, I didn't talk to legal counsel about this, but it's day 2 of our new JPA. So it went into effect yesterday, the 19th. So thank you all for that process and for all of the leadership and discussion that happened at the local level to get that done. Also, quick congratulations to the county for the really impressive CalSTA investment for the Castle Commerce Center. And a couple of things to note. I will get an email out, but I'm asking to hold the date for lunch if you're available for August 31st. We will be hosting the Caltrans director, Tony Tavares. And we will be taking him, we'll have a bit of a tour, which is going to, be a little limited on space, but I'd like to invite the board to lunch that will, roughly be about 12 o'clock. We're going to have a planning meeting the first week of April to get all of those details, but wanted to let you know if you're available on the 31st to hold that block for lunch. I would probably say 12 to 2 is a good chunk. And more details to come. And we're going to be working with the county to hopefully host that or have that lunch out at the EOC, the emergency, or the EOC out at Castle. So more to come there. August 31st. Well, since you say July 31st, I will mention just very briefly that I will be on vacation starting tomorrow and all of next week. Nav is on vacation, but we'll be back on Monday, and Stephanie will be here. And so I'll send an out-of-office reply, but we have a family vacation, and I hope it's going to be fun. I do also want to mention Stephanie sent out an email to the board I want to say maybe a week ago at this point. There's a Women in Transportation event for the Central California chapter. It's Connecting California, the State of Transportation. It's Thursday, August 10th in the evening, 5 to 7:30 at the Elite Event Venue in Fresno. And the keynote speakers are Tokes Omashakin, who's the Secretary of CalSTA, and Tony Tavares, the Director of Caltrans. So MCAG will purchase your ticket. The deadline or the registration we requested has already passed, but if you know you would like to go, please just let us know and we'll make sure you have a ticket for the event. If you need this resent to you, we can also do that. So just let Stephanie or I know about that. When we wrap up here, if you didn't notice, we have a beautiful new electric bus out in the parking lot. That is our very first bus. He is here outside, and the bus will stay through the duration of this meeting. So if you want to go outside and go inside the bus and check it out, and it's here for you all to see. We are still working on driver training and all the things, the startup functions and technologies that we need to put it in service, but we're eager to do that here in the next month or so. And when we do, we will have a big to-do about it. We'll do a press event where the bus is either going to be rolling out of the yard or into the transpo, but somehow kicking off the launch of our official zero-emission bus service. Reminder that the Measure V regional project funding requests, those submissions are due on August 1st. We've reiterated that to the staff and to the TRB, and I know Elizabeth and her team have been meeting with the jurisdictions individually to help answer questions and get those things done. I know many of you have had those items on your council agendas because they do require resolutions to establish your projects and priorities. I mentioned being out of office, so I think the only other thing I needed to do, and I apologize, but Maria, is this your first board meeting? So you heard Jose mention it, but Maria Ceja is our new admin assistant. So when you walk in the office, when you get your board, I need to stop saying this because Joy retired like 6 months ago, but she's the new Joy. So she has been with us for some time, though, as a temp, and then we were really excited to offer her the position and be part of the team as of the 1st of July. So she's learning with Marissa and Griselda, and she'll be taking over here shortly. And I think that's it. Oh, welcome. And that is my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Director's reports. We'll start with Director Nagy.
Thank you, Chair. Not much to report other than I'd like to congratulate Director Serratto for his wonderful year as our director. Everything he does stellarly. So thank you very much. You're my role model. So thank you.
Who knew that Matt would be so involved in transportation and not just picking up garbage?
Oh, hey. Boo.
True.
So next, can I go next?
Director Pereira.
All right, thank you. Stacy mentioned the county getting that $49.6 million grant. And, I just want to thank this group again. Having AME developed like it was and going to be was really, I think, one, kind of a critical element of that happening. If it wasn't on its way, I don't think we would have got the grant. So just thank you to our colleagues. I'm sure we're all excited, right? This project is going to help us countywide. Every city's going to benefit in the county as well. So anyways, thank you. And then I was wondering if I could get an item on next month's agenda, and that's to take a look at the makeup of the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Director Nelson.
I'm sorry I was late and I had to sit next to these knuckleheads over here.
There's still an empty chair if you want to.
Well, I could move. Yeah, I could move. No, that's fine. All I have to say is
It's worse there.
all I was going to say is that I have my tickets for next Wednesday to go to Yosemite on Yarts with our two of our grandsons. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be good for me because I'll actually be able to see the scenery for a change instead of trying not to drive off the edge of the road, right? So that's it.
Thank you. Director Hoag.
Thank you. I just want to say congratulations to Matt for having a great year this year, and good luck, Josh. He's got big shoes to fill, so you got to do your best. I just want to say that we are having our city-county dinner in Dos Palace on Thursday, the 27th. It will be at the DES Hall. I think it's $40-something, $45 or something like that. $40. And I'm in charge of decorations, so it'll look nice anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, I hope you guys can make it. I know there's a lot of people who are going on vacation. Not me. I never get a vacation, but so hopefully you guys can all come and see Dos Palace. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Silvera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple things. Director Serratto, thank you for your year of leadership. My next question I had is when we go look at the bus, can directors drive the bus around the parking lot?
No.
I just thought it was worth asking. I know a few of us up here that would be interested in that. And then I do want to highlight again one more time because I think it's worth highlighting the CalSTA grant for $49.6 million that Merced County was successful in obtaining. A couple things I'll tell you. I mentioned this the other day at our board meeting. I got a text message from one of our local newspaper guys and wanting to know, like, how is that going to benefit the west side of Merced County? And so just the magnitude of this project and that inland port is you guys heard me earlier mention that the single largest concentration of tomato processing plants in the world reside in now District 5 and 1. They're one of the big drivers. I mean, they have rail service over there, but it's limited, and they move a lot of product over there. And so just imagine, those folks having to go, they have a current location that they're doing that up in Sacramento. So you just imagine those trucks driving from the Los Banos Gustine area to Sacramento every day. Those trucks are now going to be able to drive over to Castle and be able to get that product on trains, which then are going to take it to ports. Same thing for the almond processors over there. Instead of those trucks driving with product that's going to be going to Oakland every day, now those trucks are able to go to Atwater. So, they're going to make one trip a day to Oakland and back, where those trucks could probably make realistically 3, possibly even 4 trips a day to Atwater. And so we're excited about it. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank, the leadership of my colleagues, Supervisor Pereira and Supervisor McDaniel as the standing committee for Castle. They were a big part of this driving force that made this whole, there's a lot of people to thank, a lot of staff to thank, a lot of great partners to thank. But again, just want to thank the leadership of my colleagues, Supervisor Pereira and McDaniel, for their work that they did on this, and steadfast and really, we inherited Castle as a county in the 90s, and it's kind of coming full circle now, where this is kind of that last piece that's really going to make that area, the jobs that are going to be created there. It's pretty exciting. I don't think people quite fully understand, a $49.6 million grant. It's the largest grant that I'm aware of that Merced County has ever received. And just to put it in perspective for you, with with ARPA, Merced County received $54 million. This is, and that, compare that to almost a $50 million grant from CalSTA. It's pretty amazing. And then when you look at the other places that received the grants, yes, they were a little bit more money than ours were, but those were ports that have been established long before any of us were around. Port of Oakland, Port of Stockton, places like that were also got these grants. So we're pretty excited about it, and we want to continue to tell that story and let folks know the work that their electeds and staff in the county, and again, all of our partners have done to be able to obtain that. And the last thing, I know everybody knows about it, but just please remind directors, please remind your staff of that August 1st deadline for East Side and West Side projects for Measure V. I think it's important and if they're that important, you'll make sure you get those submitted before that August 1st deadline. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Samra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was kind of sad that our executive director said we can't drive the bus. One of my favorite movies is Speed.
I don't think that's going to make her change her mind.
Are you sure? We'll make the sun star. But anyway, to move on to, first of all, I'd like to thank Stacy. She came to our council meeting Tuesday, gave us a update on Measure V. It was great. I really appreciate it. I know I took a couple of years, maybe a little longer sabbatical, but coming on here, I noticed we have a lot of staff at the MCAG that I don't know. I'll have to make a point to come and visit to get to introduce myself and to get to know who they are as well. And other than that, thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
So you back full?
I apologize. I forgot to call on Director Yanez.
It's okay to abuse your vice chair the first day. It's fine.
I know. Trust me.
No, thank you. Just real quick, a couple of things. I want to thank Stacy. She also came to Las Banas and did a great report on MCAG and Measure V and things like that. So I really appreciated that. And then again to Director Serratto for the 7 months I've been here so far. I didn't know there were any scripts or anything or teleprompters. I didn't see any aids used. So I just want to thank Matt for that. And then lastly to our council for getting the JPA agreement done and to everybody who helped put that together. You know, I mean, we can't agree to not agree on things if at least we don't have an agreement to come to work together, right? And so I think that was crucial. So I want to say thank you for that, and probably not something you thought you'd ever hear from a Las Banas guy, but I just want to say thank you. So.
Hey, thank you. Director Serratto.
Thank you, Josh. First, I want to thank everybody. Everybody's jokes were top notch today, I think. So, in particular, everybody brought their jokes at a high level today. Congrats to the county on Castle. Big projects too coming up as the loop gets built out at Atwater Merced Expressway. And then the city of Merced approved its Measure V projects. That was at our last council meeting. Regional projects, again, reaffirming Highway 59 widening and Mission ultimately after that. North G Street widening as it goes out to the north end of the county as well, but at the back end after that. Congrats again to everybody for their work on the JPA renewal. Good to get that obviously behind us. And then and we've had some meetings. Josh is involved, and I've had numerous discussions as well. Stacy, Nav, everybody on some potential low-hanging fruit to improve regional transit. And I know Stacy informed me there's a meeting on August 2nd, and then in advance of the meeting with Tony Tavares from Caltrans on August the 31st, I think it'd be really good. And maybe the best course would be to put the onus on Stacy and Nav to reach out and just see if we can schedule some meetings with a group of us. Or individual meetings to really look at ideas to improve regional transit. I think, the West Side commute, Paul, we've had those conversations as well too. Over the hill commute, how do we do better there? We've had conversations too. How do we do better with a morning route down south to Fresno, potentially using YARTs to that? Potential partnerships with Stanislaus to morning routes or other routes to Modesto and to their transit center, which in turn gets people to the Bay Area in certain ways. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. I think that'd be a good case to make, especially when it comes to the other things we care about, finishing the 99 widening, all those projects as well. So just having those discussions in advance. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I too want to congratulate the county on the grant that we received. There's a lot of people that worked on this, but really, like my colleague Silvera said, with the leadership and vision of Supervisor McDaniel and Supervisor Pereira, it's something that, you know, it's really a regional project, and it's going to really expand our access to a lot of things and economic opportunity and jobs. I mean, that's what we really want. So I'm really happy to have received that information and that grant. I know Supervisor McDaniel is here at the conference with me. He's at an RCRC event, and so he couldn't jump onto the call, but I'm sure he'll be walking around proud as a peacock and talking to everybody from across the country about the project and how important it is. So with that, I will go ahead and...
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot something. I need to do just a reminder that we are having system-wide free service on the bus this summer, which ends, it's all of July, August, and September. So that is in place now for all riders on all services. And also on Monday, the Yards Governing Board met up in Mammoth and voted to support an extension of an invitation to Fresno County to join Yards, which will, Director Serratto's comments about transit down to the Fresno area made me remember that. So that's another opportunity that we're exploring, as is a conversation that Elizabeth and I had recently with Dan Levitt with the San Joaquins around their Merced to Los Banos to San Jose bus service. So we're looking at all of those options. So thank you for reminding me. And thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm officially really done.
Thank you. And then with that, unless there are any remaining comments or questions, I will adjourn the meeting at 4:32. Thank you.
The bus is outside, and that driver's lonely.